wonderful scuba divers out there, welcome to Scuba Diving Magazine and welcome to Ask Mark, which is my scuba diving Q&A where I do my best to answer your scuba diving questions that you have for me. So if you have any questions, by all means pop them down in the comments below, and if you use the Ask Mark hashtag, it just gets featured in the upcoming Q&A. This week I'm answering questions about twin sets, recommended waiting periods before the next scuba diving course, regulator dangers, interesting, deep diving, just the brand APEKS apparently, and XStream regulators. Let's dive straight in with the first question. Mark Gardner asks, I'm thinking of going to twins, partly for a little longer bottom time, but primarily redundancy. I'm not chasing depth. Do I need to do any additional training, or is it a case of strapping them on and doing a few easy dives until I'm comfortable? There are training courses because of course there's a speciality for that. So yeah, it's kind of best to go down that training route, but you've got everything. I mean, there's going to be PADI courses, there's going to be BZAC, there's all sorts, GUE fundamentals or fundies, depending on who you talk to, is probably a good way to go because they'll put you through your paces. But it's one of those things of, I mean, if you think back like 40 years or something when they were first learning to dive, twins, yeah, they just kind of got on with it. But nowadays there are courses available, and it just makes everything a little bit safer. And they'll run you through drills, mainly shutdown drills, so that you can do it. It becomes muscle memory as opposed to trying to experience these things for the first time in the water, untrained. It's not really the best thing. So so yeah, have a look at GUE fundamentals, and yeah, just twin set courses in general, because they'll get you set up on how to assemble them, how to assemble your regulators, the best way, and the length of hoses and all that kind of stuff. But also in the water, they'll train you on like shutdown drills as well as like trim in the water and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it is best to get an actual training course. So have a look around, find a good instructor, find a good course, and yeah, sort of spend some time with that. But yeah, I wouldn't just buy a set of twins, slap them on your back, and just jump in the water. That's a little bit retro, shall we say. Don't do that so much anymore. Yeah, we got a course for that now. Cags51 says, hello Mark, I just became open water certified and was wondering if there was recommended waiting period before going to advanced open water or nitrox. No, actually, you can go straight from your open water and do your advanced open water. A lot of divers do it that way, and there are pros and cons to both ways, either like spending a bit of time as an open water diver and then doing your advanced, or just going straight into the advanced. There are some pros and cons on both sides. The benefit of doing it like all in one is you're still in that like training mindset. So you're very used to all of the textbooks and the training environment, so you're used to, you're just adding all this information, and chances are you're doing it with the same instructor as well, so you already have that rapport. You spent time with them, and it just makes the course just a bit longer. The other way is if you spend a bit of time as an open water diver, yeah, but what would that be? As far as like dive number is really up to you, but as a guide, as it were, PADI say that yeah, the minimum required dives for the advanced open water is those 4 qualifying dives for your open water. So you can go straight from open water to advanced. Nitrox as well. Nitrox is a dry course anyway. I mean, there is an optional dive if you want to, but it's not obligatory. And nitrox is really handy for you to just get as a first ticket. So most divers do it really early on. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about having to get 20, 30 dives under your belt before going for these courses. Yeah, I'd be quite happy just going from open water, doing your advanced, and then spend some time building up some dives and some experience in the water. Benjamin Sabo says, Mark, great stuff in all of your videos. Thanks for them. You're more than welcome. I have a debate with my buddies about a specific danger of regulator failures. Not the stop of airflow side, that's kind of obvious, but the other end of the spectrum, overblowing your breathing system. Some say technically it's possible to get in a life-threatening situation in the case that a first stage fails in a specific way, probably combined with a second stage failure at the same time, whilst others say that it's technically impossible to get a dangerous pressure inside of your mouth. Where is the truth? So is it possible to actually hurt yourself from regulator failure? I mean, my first instinct is no, but let's break it down. So yeah, if your first stage fails, so most first stages today are what we call downstream regulators. So if something fails, it fails in the open position. So instead of just cutting off air supply, as you mentioned, it will increase air supply. We actually practice for this. That's the free-flowing second stage, where you take one piece of the mouthpiece out. Usually it's the left, so the hose is in the right position, and you just let any excess gas, oh, pardon me, I swallowed my breath. You let any excess gas vent out of the side, and you just sip the amount of gas that you need, because your second stage, the second stage is basically a demand valve, and with the pressure coming in from the hose, there's a spring on the other side pushing against it. So if the pressure inside of the hose suddenly gets much bigger, it basically opens up the valve, so your second stage will free flow. Would it be able to get to a stage where it would actually hurt you? I don't think so, to be honest. And I think by now, with the however many hundreds of thousands of scuba divers there are out there, I think someone would have picked up on this, and I don't think it's ever come to that. So no, I don't think that's so much of an issue. Moving down from the first stage to the hose. So most hoses will have a burst pressure. We like 2.5 times, like test pressures as opposed to working pressures. So it's probably going to be around like 20 to 30 bar. So this particular hose has a maximum pressure of 35 bar, when there's normally like 9 or 10 bar inside of it. So yeah, I think you're pretty safe. In the unlikely event that your hose is actually severed, that could be a bit of an issue. There's a video by Lake Hickory divers. I think they did a video where they took a full cylinder with a pretty basic regulator on it, and they literally bolt cutters cut the hoses. With a high pressure hose, you've got plenty of time, because the internal bore of a high pressure hose, if it is just cut, the internal bore is very, very small, so not a great deal of air volume can get through it. So that took a long time to actually drain the cylinder. With low pressure hoses, because they're designed to have higher airflow so you can, breathe, if you cut that, yeah, that goes down to like a couple of minutes of airflow from a completely full cylinder. So yeah, if your hose is cut completely, then yeah, you've got minutes to reach your buddy, or the surface, depending on which is closest. So that could be life-threatening. You're cutting it really close, cutting it, but yeah, ideally you're getting out of the water as soon as possible. If an O-ring blows, these sort of O-rings, they take quite a long time to be able to vent your entire cylinder, so I wouldn't worry too much about these O-rings. If an O-ring is highly unlikely to happen on a DIN regulator, but with an A-clamp regulator, it's a bit more likely. I've seen it happen a couple of times. If that one vents, then yeah, you want to get out of the water as soon as possible. But to actually damage your mouth, going back to your original question, no, I don't think so. If anything, the second stage will probably pop out of your mouth before it actually gets to a dangerous level. But either way, yeah, you're just like crimping hoses is usually the best. If you do have like a severed hose or a like I've seen a swivel joint go before in front of me in my time, yeah, just kind of crimp that hose so so you can control that sort of airflow. That can be quite dangerous, especially with the high pressure hose. There's a reason why we call them whips, because if there's nothing attached onto the other end, the hoses can whip around, not so fast in the water, but still with that very small bore on the inside of that hose, you don't want to get your fingers too close to that high pressure, very fine, because then it's just like a high pressure cutting sort of device. So yeah, do be very careful with that. But yeah, sorry, to go back to your question, I don't think so. Your teeth are going to get quite cold, but realistically, I don't think you can hurt yourself or be hurt if there's a regulator fail. Yeah, the most it's going to hurt is like your fillings when you get all that cold gas running through your mouth. But no, I don't think you can hurt yourself. MP Photo Pro says, "Hi Mark, I would like to ask for your opinion about technical courses and diving. I'm a rescue diver / deep / nitrox diver with over 120 dives, mostly in dry suit, quarries, oceans and seas, and I'm thinking about stepping into technical diving. Would you be able to share your thoughts about PADI Tech 40 versus SSI decompression diver? Both are max depth 40 meters. However, with SSI, I don't need to change all of my equipment yet, and stage bottles will be useful in the future." Sorry for the long question, and thanks for the videos. They're very useful. You're more than welcome. So you're trying to choose between PADI and SSI going deep diving. The first thing that I'd recommend is try not to think too much about the training agencies and get stuck in training agencies. Start to think more about instructors. And start looking at other training agencies when you're moving into the realms of technical divers, or at least consider them. So you're looking at your IANTDs, you're looking at GUEs and stuff. There are plenty of other training agencies out there that are more trying to think of it, more tailored and more specializing in technical diving, because SSI and PADI, they do recreational diving really, really great, getting people into diving, and all of their SEO is very pitched towards sort of being like the first search results when you look online. If you search for technical diving, you'll probably start to see PADI and SSI up there, but you won't see some of the more technical oriented brands like GUE in those listings, or at least as high in those listings. So it's worth at least looking at different training agencies and considering them, because in the technical diving world, those qualifications aren't really seen as that outstanding. Whereas if you go for TDIs and GUEs and whatnot, then they tend to they tend to hold you to a higher specification and higher training guidelines. So yeah, and also at that kind of level, you also tend to be recommended that you look at the instructor over the actual training agencies, because there are some PADI instructors that will teach PADI technical diving courses to a really high level. But there are others who kind of just jump through the required hoops and that's it. So it's more a matter of spending time with an instructor before you sign up for the course, making sure that you jive with them, you get on with them, and making sure that they're not just going to take your paycheck and then just sort of sign you off. You kind of want to come out the other end as a technical diver. So yeah, normally ask around for recommendations about good instructors over just good diving courses, and then take it from there. That's usually, if you look through a lot of the forums of people asking similar questions, that's what most people will recommend, and it is what I recommend as well, because it is important that you get on with your instructor, spend some time with them, and yeah, do be expecting to sort of upgrade your equipment. There's a reason why they're recommending certain equipment styles, and it's normally for uniformity GUE especially quite like a very uniform set of equipment across all of their divers, so that no matter where you're diving and who you're diving with, you can all understand and make sure that you're diving the same way. But yeah, the usual recommendations are at that point, start looking at instructors more than training agencies, so that you can get the best experience and become a better technical diver. Kent Georgeson says, heard from a local dive center here in Texas that I need to sell my APEKS kit as APEKS has gone into receivership, and we can no longer get APEKS regulators serviced locally. Sounds suspicious, but any insight on what's happening with APEKS? I've sunk a lot of money in backplates and wings, regulators, side mount, etc. on APEKS. Should I be worried? No, I've still got my APEKS poster hanging up in my bedroom. No, what this probably is and it's not APEKS specific, is the important thing to remember here, is the what do you call it, like shipping issues. There's a better word for it, it'll pop in my mind after a minute or so, but yeah, there's a lot of supply chain issues or something, just trying to get hold of equipment in or shipping equipment in the world nowadays is just bonkers. So you'll probably find that's it, and it's kind of this what do you call it, like broken telephone type thing. The general message is, oh, we can't get hold of these service kits, and then someone's heard, oh, can't get hold of APEKS service kits anymore, that means there's a problem with APEKS, and then someone thinks, oh, there's a problem with APEKS, oh, APEKS are going into no, I can't believe that, because they've last I heard they just invested like so many millions in like new what you call it, like machining machines in their manufacturing plants up north here in the UK. So, and that's on like some 5-year like plan or something to improve what they can build there and then. They're backed by this like huge multinational what do you call it, investment group. So no, I don't think there's a problem. What it probably is just typical rumors going around, and because someone's struggling to get hold of a certain set of regulator service kits, I don't know, it's either that or they haven't paid their bills or whatever it is. But no, I don't think there's an issue with APEKS. I think they're a pretty safe brand. David Hoffman says, what do you think about the Poseidon XStream as a regulator set? I'm thinking about buying one, but recent reviews are very rare and I don't want to spend this amount of money whilst being unsure. Thanks a lot. Of course, I have a set somewhere. I know where one piece is, because every time I open this drawer, I see the exhaust tee, because I swapped that over. Where on earth are my regs? Because I tend to use my APEKS a lot, but I do like the XStream. I love them to bits. I've always been a fan of side exhaust second stages, because they're very practical in the water, especially when donating. But when you're diving with multiple stages as well, doesn't really matter which way the hose is orienting. Either way, it's up. Some training agencies aren't a huge fan of them because the purge button is in an unconventional space, or it's not right on the front as a lot of people like normally go for. It's kind of back and around the side, but they're powerful. They're pneumatically balanced, and when you turn them on, the current guidelines for turning on your cylinder are to like creep that cylinder valve. But if you do that with the XStream, they're just going to continue to hiss, because they need a kind of a punch of pressure behind it to actually make them seal, because they're upstream regulators as well, which I'll get to later. So you basically whack that cylinder valve fairly open, and it'll go and you'll hear them hiss a bit, which kind of freaks some people out on the boat. But then once they're on, yeah, you do get a good punch of air there. They're a nice punchy regulator, but well put together, and very neat and tidy second stage on them. The first stage is clever. That has a unique, there's a ball on the inside. I think they call it a ruby ball or something, and that's it's kind of free floating, and I don't know how it works. I haven't looked too much into it, to be honest, but it balances the regulator, and I probably will look that up tonight to see how that actually works, but it works. It is lovely. I think police departments and I think some of the United States Navy uses them because of their performance. But yeah, I like mine. I really need to find them. They'll be in a box somewhere, safe. But yeah, I haven't actually seen them. I've seen the exhaust tee constantly, but I haven't thought about them. I might dig them out and take them for a dive because of this question. Thank you. Yeah, but I'll recommend them. I've always had my Cyclones. Used to dive with them a lot. I love that like retro style. These are like a modern version of that retro style. But yeah, they are great regulators. Oh, and they're upstream, which can freak some people out, but actually it's perfectly fine. There's an overpressure valve built into the first stage, so yeah, perfectly fine. But as a set of regulators, yeah, they're really, really nice and well put together. One thing that I'll note after this is actually double check that you can fit a standard size or a standard thread hose onto them. When I got mine, they still had, Poseidon do this fairly often, and I don't know if they still do it if you're buying new regulators, where a standard thread hose won't fit onto it. You can get adapters to swap them over. But I do remember that I had to buy an adapter to put it on a different length hose. So just double check that. It's something worth considering. But yeah, that just came into the mind just as I was leaving. And that's it for another week. I tried to be a bit more succinct this week because as I'm editing them, I see myself kind of rambling on. So I was like, maybe I'll make it a little bit shorter for you guys. If you prefer me rambling, by all means, let me know in the comments below and I'll spend a bit more time. But I'm trying to make myself a bit more concise answering your questions. But if you do have any scuba diving questions that you want me to answer next week, pop them down in the comments below and use that Ask Mark hashtag. It just pops it up on my screen so that I can see it. And yeah, I'll get you featured in the next show. Remember to like, share, subscribe, do all that good social media stuff. Head over to the website and check out the magazine and all the news articles that we run. We also have the podcast is back if you were a fan of the Deconstruct podcast. If you go to podcast.scubadivermag.com, it lists like where you can listen to it, but it's on like Spotify and Apple Music, I think it's called. I think Deezer, if people use Deezer. It is on a few different platforms. I basically get a whole list of where I can list it, and I clicked most of them. If there's any that you want me to like list it on, by all means, let me know down in the comments. I just tend to use Spotify myself personally, but if you want to list it on a particular platform and it's not on there, please let me know because I don't really know. I just use Spotify. And yeah, some take a little bit longer to like verify because it's basically one episode and it's a brand new podcast. It takes a while for them to go, yeah, you're legit. So yeah, bear with us if it's not on every single platform, but it's getting there. And yeah, you can sort of click on that link. It will be down in the description below to check it out. That's it for this week. Thank you very much for your questions as always, and of course, safe diving.